With the WINN FM News, I am Kevin Brown. Our top stories. Regional Security System Headquarters urges the public to be vigilant with WhatsApp messages. Police investigate circumstances surrounding death of Justin Hobson in St. Kitts. Autopsy concludes no foul play in the death of Cleon Bugner-Ray. St. Kitts Nevis Prime Minister, Minister of Finance unveils 2025 budget of $1.127 billion. Traffic flow instructions issued for national carnival events held in Carnival Village. St. Lucia's Prime Minister embraces ECCB's call for basic bank accounts. Emmeline Pierre has become the first female political leader of the new National Party, succeeding long-standing leader Dr. Keith Mitchell. Internationally, Israel-Gaza ceasefire talks in final phase, negotiator says. Now, the details. The increasingly popular messaging application WhatsApp has become a prime target for scammers, leading to significant concerns for users across the Caribbean region. The Regional Securities System RSS headquarters has issued urgent warnings about a growing trend of nefarious activities that threaten the communication platforms of individuals who rely on them. In a recently released statement from the RSS Asset Recovery Unit, ARU, officials outlined the alarming tactics employed by cybercriminals and urged all WhatsApp users to exercise vigilance and caution. Over the past few weeks, unsuspecting individuals have reportedly received messages from unfamiliar numbers or numbers posing as WhatsApp support representatives. These messages often request that victims send a code they receive via SMS to the sender, effectively tricking them into believing the code is necessary for account verification. Once victims comply, hackers gain unauthorized access and control of their accounts, compromising their privacy and security. Once hackers infiltrate a user's account, they exploit the trust of the victim's contacts. As explained in the RSS statement, the compromised accounts are used to send messages to individuals within the victim's contact list, soliciting financial assistance under false pretenses. Typically, these messages claim that the user is stranded overseas and requires funds for expenses such as hotel bills or airline tickets. In addition to these approaches, offenders have also reportedly shared links or additional codes to lure more unsuspecting victims, demonstrating the need for heightened awareness. The situation is not isolated. The St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force have echoed similar warnings, highlighting the pervasive nature of these scams in the region. Police officials have reiterated the importance of safeguarding personal information and being skeptical of unusual or unsuspected requests for verification codes. They recommend that users verify any messages requesting assistance directly with the sender through alternative means rather than engaging through WhatsApp. While several individuals have already faced inconveniences and financial loss due to these scams, the RSS and local law enforcement agencies are proactive in educating the public about preventative measures. The ARU has outlined specific steps that users can implement to reduce the risk of falling victim to such schemes significantly. 1. Follow verified requests. Always verify any unusual requests for information directly with the individual or organization involved. 2. Be critical of the information you share online and ensure that it is shared only through secure channels. 3. Never disclose your verification codes to anyone, regardless of the situation or urgency presented. 4. To help protect others in the community, report any unusual or suspicious messages to local law enforcement. And 5. Activate two-factor authentication on your WhatsApp account to add an extra layer of security against unauthorized access. As this trend continues to threaten the safety of online communications, the RSS urges all members of the public to stay focused and aware. Cooperation with authorities is crucial in combating these fraudulent activities, and continued vigilance can protect individuals and their finances from being targeted by malicious actors. The RSS and member state officials remain committed to raising awareness and providing resources to foster a safer online environment. Users are encouraged to stay abreast of these developments and to take proactive measures to secure their accounts against potential cyber threats. By working together and sharing information, communities can cultivate a safer digital landscape and reduce the impact of such scams across the region. Investigations are currently underway by officers of the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force regarding the death of 48-year-old Justin Hobson. Authorities were alerted to the situation after residents reported a disturbing odor coming from a home situated in Bird Rock on December 16, 2024, prompting a response from law enforcement officials. Upon arrival at the scene, police discovered Hobson's body inside the residence. Details surrounding the circumstances of his death remain unclear at this moment. An autopsy is scheduled to determine the exact cause and time of death. More on this as information becomes available. An autopsy conducted on December 16, 2024 has determined that there was no foul play involved in the death of Cleon Bugner-Ray, a 51-year-old resident of St. Johnson's Village. The findings confirm that no criminal activity contributed to the sudden passing of Ray, whose body was discovered on December 11, 2024 in Bird Rock. Before the discovery of his body, Ray was reported missing, which prompted action by the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force. Officers undertook comprehensive searches in areas frequented by Ray, leading them to find his parked passenger bus on Curry Hill, not far from the site where his body was later found. The initial examination at the scene indicated Ray was lying motionless in the foliage, and he was pronounced dead shortly thereafter. The government of St. Kitts and Nevis has officially presented its 2025 budget, totaling $1.127 billion, as outlined in the budget address delivered by Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew, on December 16, 2024. The budget for 2025 includes notable increases in various ministries compared to allocations made for 2024. Recurrent expenditures are $888 million and capital expenditures are $209.4 million. These figures represent a strategic allocation to enhance public security, education, tourism, and health, all essential sectors for the nation's development. In reviewing its fiscal performance in 2023, the government recorded a surplus of $27.8 billion in the overall balance and surplus of $44.2 million in the primary balance, with total revenue and grants amounting to $1.2 billion. This achieved despite total expenditures hitting $1.1 billion, an increase of 13.1% compared to budgetary forecasts. The government's ability to surpass its revenue targets was attributed to higher collections of various taxes, particularly those related to income and international transactions. In contrast, the 2024 budget allocations for total expenditure were set at $1.1 billion, reflecting a more restrained fiscal approach than the anticipated growth in the 2025 budget. This shift indicates a government strategy for increased investments across multiple sectors to foster economic growth and infrastructure development. A significant portion of the 2025 budget is earmarked for security and social development. The Ministry of National Security, Citizenship, and Immigration has been allocated $85.6 million for recurrent expenses, a 7.9% increase from the previous year. This funding will support initiatives such as the Safety and Security Improvement Program and the refurbishment of police facilities, ensuring enhanced safety for citizens. The Ministry of Education also allocates $107.5 million for recurrent expenditure, a 10.5% increase from 2024. Investments will focus on upgrading school facilities and improving the learning environment, with particular attention to technological integration in classrooms, demonstrating the government's commitment to quality education. A recurrent expenditure of $53.3 million will also benefit the tourism sector, representing a dramatic 92.7% increase over the 2024 allocations. This substantial hike reflects the ministry's commitment to promoting sustainable tourism practices and enhancing infrastructure in this critical economic sector. The health sector will receive an allocation of $86.8 million for recurrent expenditure in 2025, continuing the trend of investing in healthcare improvements. This is a 9.5% increase over 2024, aimed at modernizing facilities and recruiting critical healthcare personnel. The government aims to improve health services through substantial capital investments, including construction of new health centers and developing the smart hospital. The government emphasizes that these fiscal strategies address immediate needs and lay the groundwork for long-term prosperity. The total public sector debt stood at $1.6 billion, reflecting a decrease in the debt stock and an improvement in the debt-to-GDP ratio, which decreased by 4.4 percentage points. This fiscal prudence and strategic investment in social services are expected to lead to sustainable economic growth. In summary, the 2025 budget is a substantial commitment to national development. It emphasizes support for citizens through enhanced social services and infrastructure projects while focusing on fiscal responsibility and economic growth. The St. Kitts and Nevis National Carnival Committee has released essential traffic flow instructions for the remaining events of the National Carnival, which are set to take place at the refurbished Carnival Village. This year marks a notable change. Temporary renovations have transformed the Carnival Village to accommodate the growing demand for space during Sugar Mass 53. Approximately 5,000 square feet of the Bastia High School lands have been designated an extension of the venue. The Carnival Village, which saw limited use in previous years due to capacity constraints, is now prepared to host a series of vibrant celebrations. The main entrance for pedestrians accessing all National Carnival events will be via the Bastia High School. To ensure smoother traffic management, Victoria Road will have a one-way vehicular flow directing traffic from south to north. Vehicles will also be prohibited from entering Victoria Road from the top of the road near the Moravian Church, reinforcing security and accessibility during the festivities. Parking restrictions have also been established to facilitate the event's organization. Parking is prohibited from the main Carnival City gate to the BHS gate, but general patron parking is available on the BHS grounds. VIP and VVIP attendees will have designated parking at the tennis courts and Warner Park Football Stadium. Moreover, vehicles leaving the Bastia High School parking area will be directed onto East Park Range to ease the exit process. An emergency travel route has been designated south on Victoria Road to Keon Street, leading to the Joseph and France General Hospital, ensuring that emergency services can navigate effectively during the carnival events. These measures are anticipated to enhance safety and accessibility for attendees and residents, contributing to a successful national carnival experience. In regional news, St. Lucia's Prime Minister embraces ECCB's call for basic bank accounts, HTS News Force reports.
The ECCB's rollout of basic accounts affirms the bank's commitment to financial inclusion and making its products available and affordable to individuals and business owners within the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, ECCU. According to a press release from the ECCB, basic account holders will be able to make point-of-sale, bill payment, and ATM and bank-to-bank transfer transactions through access to debit cards, online banking, and automated clearinghouse and electronic funds transfer services. Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre has embraced the ECCB's call, commending the bank for its decision.
It's a welcome press release from the ECCB. You know, only this week, or late last week, only on Friday, speaking at an FSRA conference, I made a point that it's easier to open bank accounts. I'm very happy that the ECCB and the governor in particular has almost instructed the bank that it should make it easier. Bank accounts.
Prime Minister Pierre is particularly happy that students and self-starters will get to open a bank account at a young age.
But that doesn't mean that it will not be the normal due diligence, but at least particularly young business people, students will be able to open an account and with easier. I'm very happy. It's good news. We've been advocating for it for a long while, and we're happy that it's coming through.
The ECCB describes the basic bank account as 1. Is free to open, 2. Does not attract charges for the making of deposits or withdrawals, 3. Accrues interest, 4. Is not subject to a minimum balance, 5. May be subject to a maximum balance, and 6. Does not have an associated checking or overdraft facility. Among the benefits of opening a basic bank account include it is subject to an aggregate credit limit not exceeding EC $36,000 annually and not attract any account opening or maintenance fees. However, automated teller machine, ATM fees, and other charges attached to services will be applicable. Furthermore, basic bank accounts seek to help support enhanced financial access and inclusion, as well as convenience, safety, and affordability for people in the ECCU, particularly those who are unbanked or underserved by the banking system. Gina Filippi, HTS News Force.
Emmeline Pierre has become the first female political leader of the new National Party, succeeding long-standing leader Dr. Keith Mitchell. Grenada Broadcasting Network has the details.
Delegates attending the new National Party, the NNP convention on Sunday, elected the party's first female political leader, Emmeline Pierre. Before becoming the political leader of the party, Mrs. Pierre served as a public relations officer. In her acceptance remarks, Mrs. Pierre expressed heartfelt gratitude to the party's delegates and reaffirmed her dedication to the principles and mission of the NNP.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I say this afternoon, this victory belongs to you. This victory is yours. This afternoon, brothers and sisters, I stand firmly on a platform that represents the ideals of this new chapter, which is one of hope, determination, and unity. However, most importantly, I stand today on the incredible legacy left behind by those who have walked this path before me. I therefore pay tribute and I honor today the longest serving and most successful political leader and Prime Minister in the history of Grenada, Carrick P.T. Martinique, and indeed our region, Dr. Keith Mitchell, a distinguished statesman and a towering figure in regional and international politics.
The NNP also welcomed its newly elected executive members who will support Ms. Pierre in her efforts to guide the party forward. The new deputy political leader is Nolan Cox. Dr. Keith Mitchell has led the new National Party since 1989. Dr. Mitchell will now serve as party chairman with Gregory Bowen as the deputy chairman. The election at the convention, which was held at the St. Andrews Anglican Secondary School, was held amidst accusation from former Assistant General Secretary Peter David of an undemocratic process that lacks fairness, transparency, and legality. David, one of two people who applied to become the political leader, announced that he was pulling out of the race late Saturday.
The National Party and the democratic ideals and concept in Grenadian politics have reached an inflection point. We must continue to fight for the ideals of democracy, constitutionality, and fairness. Many delegates have been disenfranchised, and the pleadings of an even larger number of party supporters and well-wishers have been completely ignored throughout this process. We are now facing a process which lacks fairness, transparency, and legality.
The NNP executive comprised of Chairman Keith Mitchell, Deputy Chairman Gregory Bowen, Political Leader Emmeline Pierre, Deputy Political Leader Nolan Cox, General Secretary Roland Bowler, Assistant General Secretary Kate Lewis, Recording Secretary Steve Horsford, Assistant Recording Secretary Rosemary Welsh, Treasurer Nimrod Oliver, Public Relations Officer Kitaka Mautu, Labor Relations Winston Garway, Welfare Officer Lorena Waldron, Floor Members Osborne Gilbert, Kenneth Noel, Edmund Calise, Marcus Christopher, Christopher Diali, and George Alexander. The convention was overdue by approximately 2 years. Chrislina John, GBN News.
We now bring you these international reports.
And after months of deadlock, Israel and Hamas appear to be moving closer to a Gaza ceasefire and hostage release deal. A senior Palestinian official has told the BBC that indirect talks are in a decisive and final phase, while Israel's defense minister says an agreement is closer than ever. Let's take you to our Middle East correspondent Yolande Nell, who joins us now from Jerusalem. So Yolande, we're in a decisive phase, we're hearing. How close are we and what details do we have of a possible detail?
Well, with these mediation efforts back on in recent weeks, we have been getting reports that both Israel and Hamas are showing greater flexibility. Israel, which has actually now sent some negotiators back to Doha, Qatar, of course, one of the regional mediators, has been saying that it sees that Hamas as a fighting force has been destroyed by its operations in Gaza, and at the same time weakened by events that have been taking place in the region. That can be the ceasefire deal that Israel has reached with Hezbollah to end the fighting in Lebanon. Also, Iran, backer of Hamas, has been weakened by the fall of President Assad in Syria and those events in Lebanon as well. So many see that the conditions have ripened for some kind of deal. There's also the element of pressure from the incoming US administration. We have had President-elect Trump saying that he wants to see the Gaza war ended before he takes office next month. And in his latest news conference, he did say that if that deal wasn't reached, if hostages were not released from Gaza, then it was not going to be pleasant.
And any further details, Yolande, of the actual plan, this potential three-phase plan we've been hearing about?
Yeah, so it's a senior Palestinian official who has spoken to the BBC, giving some details of this plan. We understand from that official that the first stage would last for 45 days of ceasefire, and during that time we would have remaining civilians and women soldier hostages being released, that you would have a partial Israeli troop withdrawal from Gaza, and you would have some mechanism so that Gazans displaced from the north of the Strip would be able to return to their homes. The second phase would see the remaining Israeli hostages being released and a further Israeli troop withdrawal before the third stage, which is supposed to see the full end of fighting and ultimately reconstruction. Of course, a lot of devil is in the detail here. Mediators have been stressing that they still do have a gap between the two sides that they have to bridge.
Yolande, we have some live pictures coming to us at the moment from Gaza, from the Al-Aqsa hospital. And the WHO have been talking not about Al-Aqsa, but about the Kamal Adwan hospital, saying the conditions are simply appalling. The UN and the WHO saying that. What is the latest on what is actually happening inside Gaza at the moment?
I mean, we have heard of at least a dozen people having been killed in the latest Israeli strikes across the Gaza Strip. Conditions particularly dire in the north of the Strip where Kamal Adwan Hospital is based. That's where since October Israel has been conducting a new offensive, saying that it's acting against regrouping Hamas fighters there. But, you know, really an extremely desperate situation that just underlines the need for Gazans perspective. People have been telling us they are desperate for some kind of ceasefire to be reached.
Disaster strikes Vanuatu. The moment a 7.3 magnitude earthquake exploded deep underwater near the coast of the capital, Port Vila, one of the most powerful quakes to hit the region in decades.
It's a stronger quake than I've ever experienced in my 21 years living in Vanuatu, and I've seen quite a few large ones. My wife said it was the largest one she had seen in her life. She, of course, is born in Vanuatu.
At least 6 aftershocks followed the initial quake, which flattened buildings throughout the city, like this one housing the American, British, and French embassies. All staff are safe and accounted for. But communications are down and power and water cut in most of the capital. Roads to the port destroyed by landslides. With the hospital too damaged to function, injured people are being treated outside. Nearby Australia is deploying emergency teams to help.
We will provide whatever assistance is required. I say to the people of Vanuatu, you are family and Australia is here to help.
Vanuatu lies within the Pacific Ring of Fire, and earthquakes are common here. The UN says more than 100,000 people have been affected by this one. Witnesses report bodies laying in the streets. As rescuers work to help survivors and find those missing, the death toll is expected to rise. Alexandra Byers, Al Jazeera.
Let's talk now about Mayotte. President Macron saying he'll travel to the French Indian Ocean territory in the coming days. Remember, it's been hit by a powerful cyclone, the worst they've seen in decades there. Rescue teams are still searching for survivors, and we are hearing that hundreds, possibly thousands, are feared dead. Widespread damage to infrastructure, while we've got downed power lines and passable roads. The health system as well has been badly affected, and that is really hindering emergency operations there too. But just to make clear, very difficult to make contact with people on the island. So getting a full picture of what is happening on Mayotte has proved to be very, very difficult. But let's speak now to journalist Anne-Elisabeth Moutet, who joins us from Paris. Very good to see you. I wonder, I know this is a massive story in France, if there's been criticism so far at the French government response. Particularly, I see today there is some of the Prime Minister who has chosen not to go straight away.
I think yes. I mean, the fact that Jean-François Bayrou, the new Prime Minister, chose to go to a long sort of decided meeting as he's mayor of the city of Pau in southern France is seen as him not realizing that his job has changed. And that's where the criticism is. It's understood in France that this is a disaster for a lot of reasons. Some of those is that the island is overpopulated, and the immigrant population, who are mostly people who come from the Comores, on small boats, and it's a small boat problem that makes the French-British one tiny by comparison, live in shanty towns because there are many of them, too many of them. The island has now a population of 300,000, and half of whom are not French citizens, and building houses fast enough to solve housing problems is it's a disaster now. But it's not conceivable that it could have been built. It has never existed. There's that thing. The other thing is Mayotte is a French département, so the Mahorais, born Mahorais, are French citizens. So there's help already being sent, but not only is it disastrous, but it relied on the Red Cross, which has about 400 people, this includes volunteers, in Mayotte, and 200 of them have not been heard of since the cyclone. So the support on the ground that they were expecting to find is not necessarily there.
And Elizabeth, from the political perspective, it's really interesting what happens in Mayotte in terms of how they vote. Why has it been such a hotbed in the past for Marine Le Pen and the anti-immigrant right?
Because it's a kind of future dystopia. It is well worth noting that in Mayotte, every single citizen of every party, left and right, and the leaders of both parties are all in agreement in saying that immigration from the Comores must stop, and that the island is under pressure because public services cannot follow. You have about 10,000 babies born in Mayotte every year, and the immense majority of those babies are not French. And the reason these babies are born in Mayotte is that the pregnant mothers come to Mayotte precisely to have them born in France so that they would have the French nationality. So the National Rally has been using this small island in the Indian Ocean to say this is France in 10 years, which is pushing it a bit.
The dollar holds firm ahead of the Fed's rate decision later this week. Welcome to Market Insight. I'm Ramzan Karamali. Well, traders seem more and more convinced that the Federal Reserve will cut rates 25 basis points on Wednesday, but that the easing path next year will be a gradual one. The pound was one of the few currencies to rise against the dollar after data showed British wage growth picked up more strongly than expected in the 3 months to October, adding to the case that UK rates could take longer to fall than those elsewhere. The Bank of England is expected to keep rates on hold this Thursday. Meanwhile, the yen strengthened very slightly as markets scaled back the chances of a Bank of Japan hike this week in favour of a move in January. But are the markets right in all three cases? Well, to help answer that and more, I'm joined by Francesco Pasoli, FX strategist at ING. Francesco, thanks so much for joining us. Well, let's start with the Fed. A rate cut this week seems nailed on, but markets seem more cautious about the future easing path. Are they right to be worried?
Yeah, probably. I think at this stage, really what we expect the Fed to be mostly concerned about is really what's coming next. when it comes to obviously the whole policy agenda that Trump is promising to deliver, from tariffs to fiscal stimulus. In general, expectations are that there will be better growth and potentially stickier inflation. And obviously, if you combine these two factors, despite the fact that the Fed is quite likely to cut rates this week, they will probably look at the future with a bit more concerns on how far they can take this easing cycle to. And we think they will scale back their dot plot projections by 25 basis points, signaling only another 75 basis points approximately in the next year.
So you spoke about the Trump tariffs and about possible more spending next year as well under his administration. What impact could this have on the dollar? And is this what Trump really wants?
So Trump doesn't like a strong dollar. However, we saw in his first term how his policies ultimately did lead to a strong dollar. And we think that the same will happen this time. Obviously, tariffs are dollar positive in the sense that they're negative for kind of the rest of the world, especially emerging market currencies and the currencies of those countries that have very open economies. But what's really crucial at this stage is that he is really being serious about more fiscal stimulus in the sense of tax cuts. And that is obviously positive for the dollar in terms of a stronger economic outlook, but also what this means for the Fed. And we think that this week we'll get a bit of a confirmation that the Fed will be more cautious and easing, and this is happening at a time where other central banks are actually being more aggressive in easing. We think about the neighboring Bank of Canada or across the Atlantic, the ECB. So this kind of divergence in terms of rates is really what we think will keep the dollar well supported in 2025.
Now, I mentioned in the introduction about sterling getting stronger in light of the wage data. We've got inflation data out tomorrow. Is there any chance anything could steer us off a hold from the Bank of England on Thursday?
I don't believe so. I think today's wage data clearly pointed to the fact that there are still ongoing kind of wage pressure in the UK that needs to be addressed. And this is clearly offering kind of compelling case for the hawks to continue and try to delay kind of the easing by the Bank of England. So obviously tomorrow's CPI will be very important. We think it can have an impact on sort of pricing for the sterling curve for the next meetings. However, when it comes to this week, we think it's it's quite likely that we'll just see a hold and a pretty cautious tone. We expect only one vote in favor of it.
Now, finally, we know that the Bank of Japan is also looking to hold rates on Thursday, but perhaps hike in January. Now, how's that been impacting on the yen in recent weeks?
Yeah, so first of all, our call has been actually for a hike this week by the Bank of Japan. The reason is that looking at sort of data, inflation is a bit stronger than expected. Earnings came in a bit stronger than expected, and also we saw some improvement in GDP revisions. However, there has been some news and reports suggesting that there is a bit of kind of pushback against hiking a bit too early. So January is starting to look more likely, and markets indeed have scaled back those expectations for a hike. When it comes to the yen, well, obviously the fact that dollar rates have remained elevated continues to put upward pressure on dollar yen, and we doubt this will change next year, even with a rate hike by the Bank of Japan. So we expect a bit of the same when it comes to dollar yen. Still a lot of buying in the dips. And unless we really see a sharp repricing lower in Fed rate expectations combined with a sharp repricing higher in Bank of Japan rate expectations, we doubt that dollar yen will be able to really trade substantially lower in 2025.
You were listening to the WINN FM 98.9 newscast. Our top stories were: Regional Security System Headquarters urges the public to be vigilant with WhatsApp messages. Police investigate circumstances surrounding death of Justin Hobson in St. Kitts. Autopsy concludes no foul play in the death of Cleon Bugner-Ray. St. Kitts Nevis Prime Minister, Minister of Finance unveils a 2025 budget of $1.127 billion. Traffic flow instructions issued for national carnival events held in Carnival Village. St. Lucia's Prime Minister embraces ECCB's call for basic bank accounts. Emmeline Pierre has become the first female political leader of the new National Party, succeeding long-standing leader Dr. Keith Mitchell. Internationally, Israel-Gaza ceasefire talks in final phase, negotiator says. Thank you for listening.